Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Lysha and I am the owner of Lysha Be Creative. I am back with another tumbler tutorial and we are doing this Juneteenth inspired tumbler. I'm really excited to show you how I put this together, and of course all the products I use today will be listed and linked down in the description box down below. Be sure to check the description box out for discount codes as well as links to my other social media platforms that you can go ahead and follow me on. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're actually going to start out today in Cricut Design Space. And so the way that I am creating this is I'm going to be using a chevron template to be my base for the top and bottom portion of my cup. So I won't use the entire template, but that is how I'm going to get that wavy line on the top and bottom portion of today's design. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut all of the lines that I'll need to separate all of the different colors. So I've just grabbed a square shape and just expanded that to be 11 inches wide by 0.08 inches in height, and that is just going to get me these really thin vinyl lines that I can use to be able to separate each of the wavy lined colors. So once I am done with that, I am going to go ahead and download this Juneteenth decal that I found off of Creative Fabrica. It will be linked and listed down in the description box. I'm just going to go ahead and import that or upload that into Cricut Design Space here, and then get that into my canvas here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click to upload that in there, then get that onto my canvas, and then I'm just going to decrease the size so that it fits. So I'm using the chevron template as a guide to how large I want my decal to be. So although I won't be using this entire chevron template, I do know that this is directly sized for my 20-ounce skinny we're using today. So it's perfect to figure out just how small and how large I need to make that decal in the center to make sure that this is going to fit perfectly on the front side of my cup. So now I'm going to go ahead and select that image and then go over and weld it. I do want this to be one solid color. I was going to go with the 3 colors, but unfortunately I didn't have a vinyl to match all of those colors, nor to match the glitter that I have and I'm going to be using. So I decided to weld those together and make that one solid image. I then am going to create an offset, and my offset is about 0.05 in offset in the offset feature, and I'm going to set that to be black so that will match the vinyl lines. And then once I'm done with that, I'll hit the contour button just to remove any of those really small cuts I don't think are necessary. Then I'm going to get all of this stuff cut, set aside, and let's go ahead and get started on our pattern. So here's my chevron template pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and work with my 20-ounce skinny. This is my Hog tumbler. It's a 20-ounce skinny straight that I ordered for them, ones that I've been using for quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sections of the template I'm going to be using. And so I've already placed the first portion on the top portion of my cup. So that just shows you the inner portion of the chevron template I'm not using. And then I'm going to show you how I applied the bottom section here. So unfortunately my video did get cut off for whatever reason. And so I didn't show you putting together that first section on the cup. But this bottom section is exactly how I did the top. So I really just did more of an eyeball it and stick it type situation. You certainly could use like the hinge method or the way that I usually would apply vinyl. I did get a pretty good with just eyeballing it. I did do pretty well. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And of course it doesn't need to be perfect because these are just really our guidelines for where the different lines of color are going to be. So we can kind of fix any of that misaligned area as we get to that section of the cup if it's not too bad. These are the 3 glitter colors we're going to be using today. So I have Envy and Blood and Shades from my Aisha Creations. And then I have Asland, which is like a metallic yellow color from Peachy Olive Glitters. So we're starting off right with the center zigzag of this template here, and we're going to start with the yellow metallic glitter color today. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the removable vinyl that I'm using today off of that center, because we'll start with the yellow lines and the center black section first and get those painted, glittered, and then dried before we move on to the 2 outer sections. So just going to go ahead and remove those sections there. Normally I like to use stencil vinyl. However, I did have to scrounge and find, honestly, a piece of removable vinyl because I was out of stencil vinyl and didn't realize that I was. But removable vinyl is also a great alternative for using to create stencils or patterns that you're meant to remove later on. I'm going to use a acrylic paint pen here in yellow to just color over the black base that I had set for my cup. Since the majority of the cup is going to be black, it just made sense to base paint the whole cup black, then go back and add any colors that I want. Now, because all of the glitters that I'm using are metallic, I will tell you that base paint color does not really matter with metallic glitters. They're always super vibrant no matter what the base color is. And I will be doing 2 coats of glitter on all of the sections today, except for the middle section, since that's black glitter over a black base. And I'm really able to get great coverage with metallic glitters and not have to worry about any of that black tumbler peeking through after that second coat of glitter. So after I've gotten the bottom portion done, again, it doesn't need to be perfect. You could alternatively, of course, as well use paint if you wanted to. I just wanted to do markers because markers for me are a little bit quicker than grabbing a cup. You know, the paint, mixing that, maybe if you don't have the exact color, and then, you know, having to paint those sections and wait for it to dry. Acrylic paint pens dry really quick, and so I thought this would be a great way to base paint since it's such a small section anyway, and not have to worry about waiting for my paint to dry before I get into my coats of glitter. So now with that sort of all painted and ready to go, we can go ahead and just wait for the rest of the paint marker to dry, and then we're going to get into adding our glitter. So of course we're going to be applying our glitter today with Mod Podge. You alternatively, of course, could use epoxy. Because I'm doing a stencil though, I do typically like to go with Mod Podge or some sort of glue adhesive, just because I do find that I can be a little bit more precise with how I'm applying my Mod Podge and applying my glitter, and making sure not to make a huge hot mess over the other sections that are going to be different colors. So we're just going to go through and get a nice section of glue all over the first zigzag line here. We'll do that for both the top and the bottom of the cup, and then get our coat of glitter on top of this. So although this is a Juneteenth inspired tumbler, of course with the Juneteenth holiday coming up, this is a really cute idea for a completely different design if you wanted to do. I think this would look really good and really cute around Easter time with pastel colors, and maybe treating that center section as like you know, where you'd put like different Easter themed, you know, decals and things. I've never actually done a full chevron template before, but I really just love like the zigzagged look. I don't know if I would like it like the full template like it's meant to usually be, but I do like this kind of look where either you do the top and bottom, or maybe just have that zigzag pattern like through the center in either vinyl or glitter. There's just something about just like these cool different little patterns that, although they're super simple, really does give cups a really unique and cute look. So first coat of glitter is done for Aslan. We're going to go ahead and dry the cup that has the glitter on it so far. That way that Mod Podge can dry, and that way I can go ahead and go into my second coat of glitter. I don't like to wait for the cup to dry. I like to speed up the process just because it takes too long to wait, and then at that point I'm kind of bored and we'll move on to another project and forget about the project I'm working on. So I like to get all my coats of glitter done kind of at the same time, even if that means I have to speed up the process with my heat gun. So I've done the second coat of Aslan, as well as gone in and painted the entire section in the center with Mod Podge and gotten that covered in the color Shades. So Shades is a black glitter from my Asia Creations, but it does have some like diamond magic sort of mica mixed with it, so it has a beautiful sparkle. So you're not getting sort of that black tar look, which sometimes can happen from a solid black glitter under epoxy. This is going to continue to sparkle and shine even after I've added the coats of epoxy on top of it. So now that we're done with that section, we're going to go ahead and move to the outer sections of the cup. So starting with the very top of the cup here, we're just removing those small triangles for the top of that chevron pattern and the bottom triangles, and these sections are going to be red. So I was going to go ahead and paint these sections and use the acrylic marker that I had on hand to color in these sections. But again, remembering that I'm using a metallic red glitter, I decided that it wasn't really necessary, and I probably would get really great coverage and just as much vibrancy on just over that black painted base versus taking the time to, you know, color that in. So really I saved myself a little bit of time here, just being able to not have to base paint that section and just going straight in with my Mod Podge in order to add that first coat of glitter. So the red color that we're using today from my Aisha Creations is called Blood. So this is sort of like a deeper, richer red, still very much in the red family, just not as bright as something like a Red Gem, or even like a cherry color. Like it has a much sort of deeper color. I wouldn't say it looks exactly like blood, like the actual blood, but it definitely is on the deeper red section than some of the other more bright and typical red glitters that you would find from other glitter vendors. So this is actually the first time I've used blood. I have a lot of reds on my shelf, and so I don't always use a whole lot of red. So it's a great opportunity to throw in a red glitter for this, because of course we're going with this Juneteenth design. But I really do love this color and think it would be perfect, especially around Halloween time, because I think it does give sort of that more deeper, richer, creepier red when paired with something like black or greens or, you know, darker, richer colors for Halloween time. So this is also maybe something you want to pick up and add to your collection as we, of course, get through summer and then back into fall for that season. So I've gone ahead and did my first coat of glitter there with the red. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, get this glitter picked up, and then of course we will once again go into drying this section so we can do the second coat of glitter. So I dry my sections when I am doing sort of the second coat of glitter from anywhere to like 1 to 2 minutes. It's not really a very long time, and it's not perfectly dry by any means, but it's dry enough that if I put that wet Mod Podge brush over top, it's not going to move any of the glitter or Mod Podge underneath it. So it doesn't need to be 100% dry, just dry enough that the glitter is not going to shift when you go to add something else on top of it. So now we're going to move into our final section of glittering here. So the glittering process is probably what took me the most time of the entire design, just because it's a little bit more intricate, right? We're not sort of just coloring a full cup, one solid color. You know, we're kind of having to be a little bit more precise with how we're applying our Mod Podge to make sure that we still have really crisp and straight lines. So I'm going to remove this final zigzag pattern here from our chevron template, and then I'm going to go in and we're going to go straight in with Mod Podge, and we're going to add the color Envy over top of here. So Envy is a green, as I mentioned, from my Aisha Creations. Really pretty green, great one to have in your collection. All the glitters that I use today are definitely more on the fine side of glitters. You guys know that I typically like to use a combination of all, but for this, just the colors that I picked, most of them ended up being like fine cuts of glitter, which are great for templates, I will say. Definitely better than something like a chunky, just because with chunkies, you know, it doesn't always lay flat, number one, and sometimes with that chunky glitter and the way that you apply it over, you know, Mod Podge or epoxy, sometimes it sort of makes it a little bit harder to keep those lines crisp and straight. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up with my coat of Mod Podge here. Gonna get Envy applied to that first line there. We will come back and do a second coat of glitter, and then this will be it for the glittering portion of the cup. So it took me anywhere from like 30 to 45 minutes for this process, but it was something that I just knew I needed to have. I wanted to have all of these colors kind of placed on the cup, but I didn't want them to just kind of be willy-nilly. I kind of wanted them to be placed in a way that they each sort of stood out, but it also kind of comes together as its own sort of cohesive look. So I'm really hopeful that you guys enjoyed today's video, but I'm going to go ahead and speed up the rest of this clip since we have watched me glitter for the last probably 10 minutes of this like 20-minute video. But we're going to go ahead and skip to getting this cup on the turner. So this cup is going to go on the turner for a coat of epoxy after I spray seal it, of course. So let it dry for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. Brush off any of the excess glitter, and then of course get it on the turner. 2 coats of epoxy until smooth, and then let's move on to the next step. Okay, so after my 2 coats of glitter, all I did was, or not my 2 coats of glitter, after my glitter and my epoxy, I did go ahead and just very carefully apply a little bit of painter's tape. I didn't show it only because literally all I did was cover up the green, yellow, and gold, red, yellow, gold sections with some painter's tape. And then I've gone in and done a power wash method like you guys saw in my last tutorial over top of just that center black section. So now heading back inside, letting this dry for about an hour or so, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape. And so you'll notice I still get a little bit of overspray, which is okay. We'll clean that up with a little bit of acetone, but I did mostly focus all of that power wash with the flat white spray paint that I used while outside to just that center black section. So once I get the tape removed, I am just going to take the opportunity and moment now just to clean up any of that overspray. Obviously, I don't want any of those specks of white paint to be in the areas other than the center section that was intended to have the white paint. And then we're going to go into doing something a little bit cool, something new that I kind of just thought of recently. So I know you can power wash, and I mentioned in my last video, when you're doing power wash, you can use any kind of spray paint. And so I really wanted the colors that I chose for, you know, to celebrate Juneteenth, of course, to be kind of through the entire cup. And so I could have chosen to do power wash of all 3 of those colors, but sometimes that ends up being a muddled mess when you're trying to use multiple colors in a power wash. And because you have to move so quickly, sometimes your soap starts to sort of migrate and kind of make sort of a very sloppy looking mess. And so I decided instead to start with that white power wash base and go over that white spray paint with some alcohol inks. So I have 3 alcohol inks from Jen's Crafted Gems. These were all from her primary pack. So I have Gory, Beetlejuice, and Harvest Moon. I've just put a little bit of those into the bottom of a couple medicine cups. I also have some rubbing alcohol just to clean off brushes, or in case I get a little bit too willy-nilly with the application of my inks and things start to sort of move in a direction I don't want them to. But now I'm literally going to take just my fine paint brushes, dip them in that alcohol ink, and we're going to color over this power wash. So I'm taking that fine paintbrush and really being careful to pay attention to detail and really just coloring in those white sections. Now, because it's a black base, I don't think that this would look great over any other color. So if you decided to do a white power wash over a lighter color, this sort of technique where you're using alcohol inks, unless you're going to be super precise, probably wouldn't work, only because those lighter colors are still going to pick up any of that alcohol ink that's not directly on top of that white power wash. So I hope that makes sense. So because this is a dark base, even when I color outside of those sections, you can't tell that there's any coloring outside of those sections because, again, it's a black base, whereas over other colors, it would be very noticeable and probably wouldn't have a really great look over lighter colors. Certainly darker colors are definitely the way to go when using and doing this sort of technique. So I started with the Harvest Moon, and then after I've gotten a third of the way around, I'm going to go in with the Gory color, which is the red from her primary pack, and then finish things up with the Beetlejuice green color on the last and final section. So I thought this was such a cute and fun idea and something different. I think it's perfect for summer because, you know, we're spending time outside. So I really would love to see you guys' other creations with this. And if you have other sort of colors, I think that this would look really pretty and really cool, like a black base with like neon inks over top of that power wash. I don't know. I have some ideas and now I feel like I'm going to play around with it. But after I finished that, I did put that back on the turner for a coat of epoxy to get that all covered up. Then we're going to go ahead and do our regular sanding routine. So just a 60 grit sanding block all the way around the top there, making sure that that is nice and smooth. The rest of the cup is smooth. We just needed to expose that fine line of stainless steel so that we get into doing our decal work. So we're going to go ahead and add our lines, our vinyl work here to the cup after I am finished sanding. After you're finished sanding, of course, you can clean this off with either 91% rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, or you can go inside and wash this with regular dish soap and water. Your choice. Doesn't quite matter, whatever works for you. I typically gravitate to just the 91% rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. It's just the easiest. So we are going to go ahead and do our vinyl work now. And so I did cut all of the black that I needed. So for the vinyl lines and for the offset of the Juneteenth heart that's going to be in the center, I used the Tech Rep Craft black glitter vinyl. I had this and used this in a video quite a few months ago for a like bow cup style tutorial, and so this is the same vinyl that I'm using for this. I just figured adding a little bit more sparkle never hurt anybody, so why not? So I'm just going to go ahead and we're literally just going to take the time now to do all of the vinyl work. So this takes a bit of time, right, because we do have to do sort of this back and forth pattern to be able to cover up that zigzag pattern all the way through all of the lines there. I did also, after I did the zigzag pattern along the 3 colors, I then did one solid line around the top that separates the power wash from the 3 sections the 3 colored sections up top. And that was just kind of a way to just sort of make the design look kind of finished. So finally, we'll then go ahead and place the offset heart on here before we can go ahead and get this sealed and ready for the final decal. So I'm just going to place that directly in the center here. Make sure it's all lined up, get that placed. And then before I add the final decal, which is going to be the, the inner portion of the Juneteenth in just white vinyl, I want to make sure, because there's such small sections of this vinyl, and this vinyl is actually pretty thin, I do want to make sure that I seal this. So I'm just going to use a little bit of polyacrylic. Minwax polyacrylic in the gloss or satin is always my go-to for sealing anything that I think might do some lifting during the final epoxying process. It just saves me a lot of headache and a lot of potential issue, and heartache later when it comes to using things like washi tape, holographic, anything that has a potential to lift. So we're going to set that aside for 30 to 45 minutes, let that fully dry. Then I'm going to go ahead and weed my Juneteenth heart decal, and then we're just going to get this placed directly on the black offset that is on the cup. So real simple here, just decided to do white. I wanted to do multiple colors, but again, I didn't have vinyl colors to match my glitter, but I really do think that even though this is the only section that is white on the cup, that it really does stand out really nicely and really overall looks really nice. So of course, that was all I needed to do. This went on the tumbler for 2 final coats of epoxy, and that was it. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed today's tutorial, and of course, if you did, be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought, what I should do next, and all that good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you soon.